Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my November reading review. In this wrap-up video, I'm going to talk about the 11 books that I read in November. I read a variety of genres, and I had some amazing books, some pretty good, and some not so good. The majority of the books that's pretty good. But I have some great books and, one stinker. So, well, wait, two stinkers. But we'll start off with my only, truly negative review of the month. So we'll start from the worst, work to the best. So starting with what I think was the worst book I read this month, probably a pretty long shot, was the novelization of Hook. I have a full review for this book. I think it's already on the channel. But basically, nothing in this book worked for me. Didn't care for it. This is the type of novelization where it's just a straight up novelization, and I don't like that. I like it when you add a lot of stuff. Now, I don't blame Terry Brooks entirely because he had a bad experience with the writing of this book, but I also don't not blame him because I've read his other novelization work, The Phantom Menace, and I think it's still bad. So I didn't like this one. I read it because I want to complete my Terry Brooks collection and have read all of his books, but this one was not a good book. All right, so now for the most mediocre book of the month. The book that's not good, it's not bad, it's just not good. And that is Star Wars Order 66 by Karen Traviss. This was such a mediocre book. And I have my review on the channel already for this one. But this was so bland. The ending was shocking and was exciting. Yes, it had all that. But the majority of the book, I was just like, I feel like you're retreading a lot of stuff from the first three books. I feel like you're not introducing enough new elements. And then once you did introduce new elements, it just happened also way too fast. And I was just like, I just don't care for this one. I will talk about the fifth book, 501st, which is an Imperial Commando book, in just a moment. But this one was like it's okay, but yeah, didn't care for it. So negative stuff's out of the way. Let's get into the good stuff. Starting with the Icarus Needle. This is the newest release on the list. This book is by Timothy Zahn. It is a puzzle box science fiction series. I've been reviewing this whole series on the channel. My review of this is the most recent review up, and I quite enjoyed it. It's about the exact same as the others. If you enjoyed the other Icarus books, you're going to love this. If you did not like those Icarus books, you're probably not going to like this one. This series is incredibly consistent. So, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I have some thoughts. I have some really interesting thoughts on this one, though, but I can't, talk about them here. All right, next, talking about a book I actually quite enjoyed. I did 4 military science fiction books, and I enjoyed 3 of them. I'll talk about, next is Imperial Commando 501st. I talked about Republic Commando Order 66, didn't love it, didn't hate it, but didn't love it. I thought it was mediocre. I thought it was bland, so bland. It was entertaining. It had some really interesting deep themes. I liked the commando part. This is one of the only books that I actually really liked the commando part of this book, and didn't care about the other stuff as much. And I also thought some of the character stuff was whack in this book. Some really weird stuff. But Darman and Niner were terrifically written in this book. So I finished the Republic Commando series, 100%ed it, woohoo! And this review will be out soon. It's not out yet, but it will be out soon. All right, we're taking a pretty good step up from it's good, it's fine good, to it's really good with the next one, and that is Men of Breton by Richard Fox. I really enjoyed this book. This is the first in his proposed Dream of Home series. Men of Breton is about a group of soldiers that are sent to this planet to fight as part of this war, but something happens and they have to immediately get the heck out of there, get home for something. And I thought it was a well-constructed book. I thought it was so entertaining. It's so short. It's such a quick read. And I read it, and I was like, no, don't leave me there. I want to keep reading, which is a good feeling to have as an author. That's a pretty good job. At least I wasn't like, I finished the book. No, I really enjoyed it. So I thought that Richard Fox did a great job. I not only have a review of this up, or I think it's coming up soon. It's either up or it's coming up soon, but I also interviewed Richard Fox on the channel, and that is up. And you can look up my interview with Richard Fox, and we had a great time talking about this book. I really enjoyed this, especially since I didn't love Light of the Veil as much, so I'm glad I found a book of his that I really enjoyed. Now we're talking about another author that I interviewed this month, and that is Shami Stovall, for her book Time Marked Warlock. This is an urban fantasy book. It is a urban fantasy mystery. It's very much like the Dresden Files, except that it is much more Groundhog Day than it is Dresden Files. I mean, you read the book, you will absolutely understand why, because it revolves time and resetting time. And it's a delightful, delightful book. It's a short read, but this is an excellent indie self-pub read. I think that Shami Stovall is a terrific author. She has earned her chops as an indie writer. She has earned that audience really well, and I thought that this was just a terrific book, and I am so excited to read the sequel once I can get my hands on it. So I really loved this one. I also read, and this is the last of the military sci-fi books this month. I did not mean to do 4 this month. It just happened that way, and I was like, it's too late. I've already made the video. I didn't realize it till I was making my TBR for November, but I also read Halo First Strike, and it was my favorite of the military sci-fi books. I thought this was a great continuation of the story. I loved the first Halo book, not so much the second one, and this one I thought really took it back to where it's great. I think Eric Nyland has earned his place as a great mil sci-fi writer and great tie-in writer, and I loved what this book gave me, and I was hooked, and I actually really want to read more Halo books once I can get my hands on them. It's just hard to find them in order and stuff, and find them for reasonable, but I'm super excited to read more Halo books. All right, now we are getting into like the good stuff. I have 4 more books to talk about, and really the next three I'm going to talk about could have been in any order, but I'm just gonna, I'm gonna have to go with them at some order. But my books, the next 3 books could have been any order. My book a month does stand out though. So, but let's first talk about Ben Bova's Saturn. I talk so much on this channel how much I love Ben Bova. I read this book, which is part of his Grand Tour universe, but it's much more of a political thriller than it is a traditional science fiction novel. It's a great, great book. I had so much fun reading this book. It's a blast. It's got classic Ben Bova tropes, classic Ben Bova characters, but a brand new plot device and a brand new story arc, and I just thought it was just so excellently written. He really makes me think about things so much, and I just enjoy his version of sci-fi, hard sci-fi, so much. And I'm really excited to read the sequel in December. And so this was a 9 out of 10. This was a great, great, great book. I also loved the final Fablehaven book. I've been, wrapping up some series recently, and this is the end of the Fablehaven series. I thought this was a great book. I thought that this is my second favorite in the Fablehaven saga, and I thought that it really completes the story really well. And so, Fablehaven is worth the read as a series because I think the first book is the best, and the second best is the final book, where I think it really shines. And you will not be disappointed. You may, if you didn't love the first couple of books, you may not love this, but if you enjoyed the first couple, you will absolutely love this one, because this one is the ultimate payoff for the series. It's really good. All right, the penultimate book I'll talk about is the biggest, beefiest book on the list, and that is Ken Follett's A Column of Fire. Now, this is part of his Kingsbridge series. It's a massive 900-page book. It's a bit shorter in word count because it's a little deceptive, but I loved this book. It is much less about Kingsbridge and more about the history of Europe during the 1500s and late 1500s, early 1600s, but it's still a great book. As a history teacher, there's so much good in this book. As a history teacher, I was amazed at how much history Ken Follett packs into this book, and I loved it. And for the history alone, it just got such great marks because it made me as a reader love history. I cannot possibly include this in my lesson plans as a teacher because, oh boy, is there some R-rated stuff in here. But Ken Follett just writes historical fiction in a way that just grips me and makes me so interested and makes me go and start researching, hey, does this actually happen? And I was like, man, I didn't know that actually happened. I didn't know that this person was real. I didn't know it was different from this person. So I just loved this book and was so amazed by Ken Follett's writing. And I will continue reading more Ken Follett books because I purchased more, and he is solidifying himself as a favorite author. But there must be a book of the month. And the book of the month this month was a pretty easy answer. It was also a 9 out of 10, kind of like these others. But when I thought about which one is going to stay with me the longest, it could have been Column of Fire, but it's probably going to be this next book. And that is The Blood-Dimmed Tide by Stephen Arion. This is the sequel to The Judas Blossom. It is the second book in the Nightingale and the Falcon trilogy. It released earlier this year. The third book comes out next year in May, I think, and I'm super pumped for it. But this is also kind of a historical fiction. This one focusing on the Mongols, but it's also a fantasy because it's got some magic in it. But this one, again, much like what I said about A Column of Fire, this book made me interested to research the Mongols. And I've never cared about the Mongols before I read this series. I mean, I read a little bit about them, but no, this is a great series. And the way that Stephen Arion blends history with fiction, the way he adds in just really compelling story arcs, and the way that this book is formatted around its villain. The main character of the book is the villain, and you don't see him that much, but you feel his presence. In the first book, I didn't realize who the villain was right off the bat. I felt it, it was solidified by the end of the first book, and in this book you get it, and it is all about every character. It's basically who's gonna kill the villain in this book, and you don't know who's gonna finally get to him. And I thought it was so geniusly formatted, and I'm a huge fan of Stephen Arion already. I for sure will be reading book 3, The Sorrow of the Sea, next year, and I will be picking up other Stephen Arion books, because this series is so good. So that is what I read in November. A pretty good reading month. Nothing crazy page-wise, but, I still got a big tome in there. And, Fablehaven was 600 pages, but the rest are fairly short, normal-length books. December should be my tome month. Watch my TBR video if you haven't, because I talk about I'm reading 5 humongous books and 4 not so humongous books in the month of December. But for November, I had a pretty good month. So if you've read these books, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.